In this dream, it seems I was a man on the run. Or, I might say, a multitude of men on the run, as I seemed to be constantly changing forms, transforming into men of different appearances and ages, from young to elderly. I get the sense I was doing this as a kind of defense mechanism, the possible throwing off of my pursuers, by altering my form and causing confusion. It failed to work, however. My pursuers were relentless, and not to be curtailed by my shifting of form. They were humans, as far as I could ascertain. I was always a fair distance from them, so was unable to inspect them more closely, and I was wise to keep distance between them and I, as they were all armed with guns. As I fled from them through worlds and scenes, I was regularly taking hits, as they blasted at me with their firearms, but seemed this was not enough to stop me. It became all so one-sided and somewhat unsporting, so I manifested a gun for myself to at least make it more fun and even the playing field. I'd never fired a gun before, at least in this lifetime, but surrender the specifics of the situation to the real me, and invariably I need not concern my little self. The real me was as adept at firing a gun as though it was something I had done all my life and second nature. Must have been frustrating for them, as they were unable to drop me, but they were very much susceptible to my return fire, yet there was a never-ending quantity of them. When my gun ran out of bullets, I manifested another, then decided to acquire my subsequent guns more like James Bond might. I'd get a hold of one of my pursuers and disarm, immobilize them, and claim their weapon. This went on for a time. My last form I adopted was that of an elderly man, but very formidable indeed. Also, I had a very smart metallic grey suit to go with my silver hair. As the dream experience was reaching its end, with no conclusion in sight, I was clambering and vaulting and jumping over a selection of fences, and was about to try and break into one of the houses I now had stumbled across. I would make one of the houses my last stand, and defend it thus. Then I awoke. This dream, I felt at first, was a dark forces dream, one where they were in pursuit of me, and try as I may, I could not shake them. But on reflection recently, I was curious as to how, despite the constant changing of my form in an attempt to thwart my pursuers, they continued to pursue me. Either my guises were not very effective, or they recognized me despite the guises I adopted. I had the sense then that I was being chased by myself. Hence how they were able to see through my canny shifting of vehicles. Perhaps then my personal self was making itself known, its protestations at my becoming more aware. The process of getting through ourselves demonstrated in this dream by irate aspects of my created consciousness made manifest, maybe thought forms bubbling up from the recesses of my subconscious. The battle with the self then rages on as I go through my process. That's the end of Dream 1.
Oh, how fun, Kevin. Yes. Yeah, it can be many things also. I've known many people, and we've all been there, where we have, we'll just say that we were with the bad guys at one time when we decided to leave. And and we learned, as an example, we learned these tricks to disguise ourselves, etc. You know, just like in the spy movies, an agent learns all these things, but then he goes rogue at one time. Well, he's learned all these things from the FBI or the CIA. Now he goes rogue and he goes with the Russians or something like that. And so, the FBI and the CIA is after him because he's gone rogue and he's decided to sell secrets to the other countries for more money, etc. And so they know this. So they identify his markings, etc. So what's going on there is, with the bullets in that, they're shooting ideas at you. And so that, again, that's why it doesn't bother you. Those are just ideas. It's not that. So what you're doing too, you decide to manifest a gun, you're shooting ideas back at them, and you see, again, how it's affecting them also. So if you see it as your personal self, there's many views on it. That's fine. You're the dreamer. You're the experiencer, and those are ideas going back and forth. And yes, the personal self is not easy to deal with. So let's say you're on a diet and you shouldn't eat certain foods, but all of a sudden you want a bag of potato chips and a Coca-Cola. Well, that's not on your diet, but still the personal self wants it, and you go along with it. And then after that, it's like, oh, gee, I wish I hadn't done that. But again, the personal self has its ideas of things too. So it's the back and forth, etc. So you're trying to convince yourself, oh, well, I shouldn't eat that, but I really want it. I haven't had a bag of potato chips for a month, and etc., etc. So you look for, the personal self looks for ways to convince itself that it's okay and lets it get through it, etc. So yeah, kind of like that too. But again, you're shooting ideas back and forth. Those are the bullets. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. And here's another one. This was an experience I had between waking and sleep. There I was, laying in my room, when a great blackness began seeping into my presence. It flowed over everything, engulfing everything in my room, like a great void of darkness. Even my wardrobe, which generally is the source of all kinds of phenomena in this between state, was filled with the same ominous black substance, and the wardrobe bulged and heaved with the pressure of it, threatening to burst open and spill more of the blackness into my room. I would lay and observe, not engaging my emotional vehicle or adding deliberation and mind considerations into the mix. For if I were to do so, I'd disconnect with my real awareness and the experience would be lost. I did wonder, however, at first, if this was something to do with the deep dark border, but my awareness detected a sinister tone to the blackness, as it enveloped my surroundings. So I took it then to be some form of attack by the dark forces. Still laying there, I began to sing the New You song. The blackness visibly recoiled and withdrew from the sound connection to the true light reality. It receded and was no more. So an attack, yes, or an attempted one, but an experience too, for my process of becoming more aware, a chance to regard with objectivity something that may have been rather alarming to the personal self. Perhaps it was a part of the great blackness that is engulfing creation, due to the agreed upon constriction that is causing the presence of this creational swallowing up darkness, a testament, however, to the potency of the new you song once again, not only for being the connection to the ears, but also in dispelling nasties, dissolving hazardous situations, and ridding unwanted characters and their ill intentions from our midst. And that's the end of that one.
That's terrific. So, yes, here's the influence, but at the same time, we're in this environment, we're dealing with it, and we have situations come up, and there's always something trying to take our attention. And what you're seeing from the real side is, with your real awareness, is that it can be an idea or something like that, that all of a sudden it's not as what it appears to be, but your real awareness is recognizing it. So it's kind of giving the warning there. So, if you were to tell a psychiatrist or a psychologist these experiences and these dreams you're having, and then also possibly bring in the one that your dad, Peter, had there, where he's driving the Volvo through the hospital. The fellow might take a look at all this and go, well, maybe your dad was trying to find you a room in the hospital because of what you're going through, son. But again, that's an American joke. So, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, I think I shall be avoiding the hospital as best as I can, but we shall see. This dream had a past life flavour about it, a glimpse perhaps into the past. The participants were a few people I have known in this lifetime, friends from school, so perhaps then the emotional attachments were such established from lives past that we would drag ourselves back to this world again and reacquaint ourselves. We were assembled together in a dimly lit room with a teacher. It had the feeling of a spiritual group or something along the esoteric lines. The teacher here was in fact the mother of one of the participants that I know now in this life. So it's always fascinating how we all assume various roles in our relationships with individuals. It transpired that we were a group being taught and practicing various forms of astral projection, remote viewing, and abilities of this nature. And there we were, projecting our vehicles all over the place, without the slightest inkling as to who or what may be lurking out there. Later on, I was in a house, I presume to be mine, and I had the impression of a guide there. They have a kind of presence about them that can't be faked or replicated by deceptors, even if the deceivers can assume the forms of the guides. I was informed by this guide that due to my out-of-body excursions and activities of this kind, that I had created very strong portals, and demonic entities were biding their time, as it seemed I had protection from the guides, and they could not move against me in that lifetime, but they would wait until I returned again in the next lifetime. Their objective was to try and seize me and pull me through into their lower astral domain. I don't know if they would have been able to do this if portals created in one lifetime in fact carry over to the next. I had thought that with a new vehicle, such portals would have to be reopened, maybe through certain inadvertent portal opening practices again. So perhaps it was presumed I might well take up these practices again, and these critters might make a grab for me then. And indeed, I did take up astral projection in this lifetime, just prior to finding the new presentation. I had enough success with it that undoubtedly I'd be drawing attention to myself, possibly create portals, and would be lacking the protection of the guides. Lucky then, I would have enough awareness to recognize the new presentation, begin singing the new you, and thwart, possibly, the evil intentions of the astral dwelling entities. As now, I no longer practice and chase the out-of-body experiences. Occasionally they will happen, yes, as they are still valid experiences. Interesting, I would have maybe a past life flashback now, with the accompanying warning. Due to the routines and patterns we establish in our created consciousness, I tend to steer toward magic and phenomena in my lifetimes, and very likely would take to astral projection quite readily, as I'd done it before, and so it would be lurking in my subconscious causal body, waiting to be reignited. So in the advent of my not recognizing the ears this time around, and that I return to a physical life again, there's the real possibility I would do astral projection once again, and if there is no new presentation in the robotized world I may find myself in next, I might open up portals, and the entities pounce, and drag me screaming to the lower astral. So perhaps a warning right there for the next life, as we are running out of time here, and getting enough recognition to perceive the ears this time is no guarantee. That's the end of that one.
That was excellent, Kevin. That's very good, very good explanation of what's going on. And most people don't realize this because remote viewing, astral projection, things of this nature, soul travel, etc. People do not understand the implications of it. And yes, it does open up portals. And I've known people that have, they've been into black magic and whatever. And we've all been through things, and we've had to, it's easy to get into, it's easy to jump in to something, but all of a sudden getting out of it, it's a different story. And it's just like here, if you're wanting to get into witchcraft or whatever, or the mafia or anything, secret government, job or what have you, all of a sudden you just can't quit one day, because you have certain information, you've learned certain things, and they want to keep their secrets. This is a secret world of conspiracy, and they're after to get rid of you every which way they can. And this is what the shapeshifters and things like that do too. And when Paul first came out with Secret Knowledge of Your Dreams, I remember in 1970 to 71 there, he was talking about some farm workers in California, actually, that died in their sleep. So there's different ways they can get you because, the Montauk Project and what have you. So, yeah, and this is what they do because this is all they know. They do astral projection. And yes, it is a valid experience. Just like anything, just like, taking drugs or, going, getting intoxicated and wobbling down the street, etc. That's an experience too, but is that what you want to do? So with the new presentation, this is where I created the idea so people have a reference of UP, universal positioning. And to really understand this and recognize this takes some doing, because it's not about here or there, but you will still, just like you do here, you will be traveling or experience that sensation. But now it's about your real awareness, you know, and seeing the five bodies and recognizing that, so you're not the effect so much of them until you can get a handle on it to where you're not the effect or restricted by it at all. There is a difference. So this world baits people, in other words, you know, markets phenomena constantly that looks good, thrills and, you know, sensations, etc. And yes, we all have these. It's not about negating anything, but you make the choice, etc. You know, it's like too much sugar in your coffee. How much of that thrill do you want till you have diabetes? And so then it doesn't become so thrilling, does it? But you're a great witness for this, Kevin, and because you've practiced this in the past, people that do these things are risk takers, and this is what the guides look for. They look for people that are risk takers, that will take the risk, and not everybody will, but step up and do what others haven't, and they can read your past records and what you've went through, and so at a certain point, you know, they come to you, they come to us, and they give us the opportunity, just like you know, a baseball scout would go to high school that works for the major leagues and is looking for you know, new people to step in because the old players are getting older. And so this is it too, but this is the bigger journey where, you know, the real guides look for people that want to step up, become more aware, and free themselves. So your explanation there was excellent. That's very good, and you can relate this to others because, again, and Paul warned about this also, the psychic sciences. There's a lot of phenomena involved, but you don't need it. There's a better way to take the risk, and that is become more aware, step up, and share something real with the whole of life, and pay attention to the real side, etc. And like what we're doing. But yes, thank you so much. That's very, very good, Kevin. Thank you.